All right, welcome to the show. We got a great one for you. Huge developments. I think they're huge. You know, last week around this time, we were getting the news that Tulsi Gabbard was on scene when the FBI raided the Fulton County election facility, and they got the ballots. I think they also, according to other reports, got the hard drives from voting machines and everything else. And now, credit to Badlands Media, now we have the grand jury documents, grand jury testimony from former Senator David Perdue, testifying essentially that the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, killed any investigation into the 2020 election fraud or any of the allegations of fraud. He killed it and basically said, hey, look, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation needs to drop this. The main guy in charge of that, a year later, was given a judgeship over Cobb County, Georgia. We're going to talk about that and much, much more today on the program. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
So the fallout continues, and we're going to see. We're still waiting on this report from Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, we want to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things regardless of what platform you're watching the show on. I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob.
Paul, it's an honor to be on the show as always. I'm on one today, so you're going to get an unfiltered Rob. Very frustrated with the local municipal gas company trying to get some gas turned on for one of my vacant rent houses, and they've sent me through the fire for it. And I just happened to get a spam call right after it, and I let the guy have it. And we were talking off air how we wish that I was recording that, but it wasn't.
So it was like a scam, like telemarketer. Not a telemarketer. What was it?
I don't know what he was, but he was not calling me from the location that he was calling me from. You know, it's one of those things where they reroute the phone number and it makes it seem like it's just down the street, you know, and I knew that. I knew it wasn't that. And he's just like, what do you think I'm selling, Rob? And I was like, I don't know. A grape Slurpee? Something. You know, I don't know what you're selling, but I can tell you this phone call is not going to end with me giving you a credit card information. And I'm not going to go to Walmart and buy any Google Play cards and be sending them to you. Sure as heck not going to go to the crypto conversion station and send you any money there, you know, so I can satisfy this debt. You can kiss my A.
It's getting out of, it's totally out of control. You know,
man, I get 100 of them a day, Paul. I get 100 of them a day.
Well, I mean, you know, the fatigue is real, and what I would also say is, I think later on in the show we've got like a feel-good story out of Australia where this kid swam 4 miles through the ocean to save his family.
Yeah.
But like after he swims the 4 miles to save his family, he has to run
a mile,
and he gets to a beach and there's nothing. He said there's nothing but immigrants there, and they wouldn't help me, you know, to get the helicopters to go save my family that's just adrift, you know, in sea in canoes. And presumably that's because they either didn't want to or they didn't speak any English, you know, and so he had to go, you know, find a payphone, or I don't even know if Australia has payphones, but he found a way to get the authorities out there to save his family. So.
Figured something out there, and what you have is a beach full of people who don't speak English, when in Australia, albeit with an accent, they speak English.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's very, very frustrating, I'm sure, if you've just swam 4 hours and then you don't speak a lick of English. What are you doing vacationing?
Yeah.
You know, like I can't speak Spanish, but if I go to Cancun and I hear a few words, I'm probably going to be able to, you know, at least communicate. It's going to be basic.
Yeah, like,
but I would know if someone just swam across for it, like their parents are about to drown. Yeah. Like I would know that.
Yeah, it's like for the I took it when I was in high school. The Spanish class I took was about survival. Like if we dropped, it wasn't about the grammar or the sentence structure. It was like at the time, like if we dropped you off in a foreign country, could you survive? Like, so donde es el baño? Like, where is the bathroom? Anyway. That's something that you would need to know.
I don't know if you've been dropped off in a foreign country, like where I take a pee is not really my concern. I'm like, look, it's going to be on this street.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, you're going to get arrested for that. Great. Hopefully, one of the police officers speaks English.
Yeah. All right. So Badlands Media had this. This is like one of the first headlines that actually I saw something before I went to bed the other night, which was about, I think it was from Badlands, saying, hey, if you're Governor Brian Kemp, you're going to have a really bad day tomorrow. And so here it is. The grand jury testimony from Senator David Perdue suggests that Governor Brian Kemp halted the investigation into the 2020 election. And there's a Substack here. Grand jury testimony from Senator David Perdue. If the governor, look, here's a subheadline here. This is by Brian Lupo. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate. So it surrounds, back in August 2023, Donald Trump surrendered himself to authorities. We remember all of this. He went where? To the Fulton County Jail.
Yeah.
This was payback because he was questioning the legitimacy of the election. That's the real motivation.
How dare
for
he?
The weaponization.
How dare he?
And, of course, we remember the case name, State of Georgia versus Trump et al., which was manufactured by Fulton County.
Which is, if you're not familiar, is Latin for "and others."
Last month, Judge Scott McAfee lifted a protective order on the special grand jury transcripts from the case of Georgia versus Trump. On one particular transcript contains a concerning claim made by former United States Senator David Perdue. On September 6, 2022, Senator Perdue sat for a transcribed interview in front of the grand jury. He was examined by Nathan Wade, among others. Nathan Wade, that's
the lover,
Fannie Willis's lover.
Yes, he was appointed, made $600,000 because he was boning the prosecutor there.
After initial pleasantries, Wade asked Senator Perdue whether he agreed that investigations by the Secretary of State's office, the GBI, and numerous investigations showed nothing illegal happened at the State Farm Arena on Election night in 2020. Perdue responded, I agree that the investigation happened, yes. And then Wade fired back. I just want to flesh that out for the grand jury. What you mean, because it's simple. It's a simple question. Did the GBI investigate those claims? Not to my knowledge, not to my satisfaction, Perdue responded. When Wade asked if Perdue had reason to believe that the GBI would not have conducted satisfactory investigation, the response from Perdue was shocking. Senator Perdue claims to have received a phone call in November 2021 from Vic Reynolds. This is a name that you're going to want to remember. Vic Reynolds. Let's see here.
Then director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigations.
There it is. Reynolds told Perdue, we're not going to investigate. The governor wants me to tell you why we're not going to investigate. Perdue revealed that in May of 2021, Reynolds was presented with evidence of ballot harvesting. So we're not even talking about the machines here. This is just over ballot harvesting.
Yeah.
Video evidence and cell phone evidence, along with testimony and bank records that are corroborated. Perdue stated that Reynolds looked at that and said it was compelling enough to be investigated. Okay, so here's this guy, Reynolds, from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, says this is compelling evidence, needs to be investigated. Perdue would go on to reveal that the reason Reynolds gave him for not investigating the compelling evidence was because Reynolds was, quote, a team player. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate.
If the governor.
Yes, Governor Brian Kemp. Perdue would conclude his answer by stating, for the record, that then GBI Director Vic Reynolds was later promoted, quote, promoted to Superior Court Judge of Cobb County, end quote.
How convenient for him.
An appointment made by Governor Brian Kemp in August of 2022, just 1 month before this testimony was given. And you look at the time frame here, this is a year later, so he says we want to be a team player, and then a year later this guy gets rewarded, apparently, with a judgeship.
Right, because you if rewind in your mind, if you are a United States citizen here and rewind yourself to 2020, 2021, right? And so after Joe Biden is, quote, elected here, and there was a huge emphasis on, Maricopa County in Arizona and Fulton County in Georgia. right? Georgia was just a very hotly contested thing there that said, hey, how is this possible? This just doesn't really match the polling that we're seeing here. And we also understand that Donald Trump polls less than what he actually performs when he's on the ballot. But anyway, if you'll go back to this, in 2021, there was a huge push from the conservative side to say, look, this is not about January 6, 2021. That was a symptom. The cause of all of this was fraud, and we fully believed that fraud happened. And this ballot harvesting that was happening, which is illegal in pretty much everywhere, right? I don't know that of a place where it's legal, but the Democrats at the very least were going around and gathering up all of these ballots, and that's what was getting dumped in these ballot boxes at 2:00 in the morning, right? And it's just, somebody could go back to this thing, and I think we've been teasing this for a while that we wanted to talk about this stolen 2020 elections. But the problem is that if you have to set aside logic for you to say that it is the freest and fairest election that we've ever had, because where did those 81 million Biden voters go? Where did they go? Was it all to just get Trump? Or was it exactly what we saw in Georgia permeating through the entire United States? It was just a little bit more prevalent in Fulton County, Georgia there. And what we see is that if that election were happening today with the same level of scrutiny, that Donald Trump would have won the state of Georgia, at the very least. What we're seeing now is hopefully payback for all of this stuff, and more importantly, correction, because we can't go back in time to 2020 and make him president again. But at the very least, can we make sure that we don't repeat this? And Brian Kemp is on the chopping block, because you don't get you gotta not believe in coincidences if you're a true skeptic, and you don't get appointed to this position a month before your testimony idly. It doesn't happen.
You're exactly right.
Politics are at play here, and Brian Kemp is as filthy and dirty as the dirty Democrats on the left.
I mean, there's really it's hard not to come to that conclusion. I will remind you, and I actually got this post. I was reminded of this from Sidney Powell. And I don't have the post. I think it's bookmarked somewhere. But originally, Brian Kemp did want. Well, let me just find it, because I have it here at the tip of my fingertips. So hang on one second. Originally, Brian Kemp, here it is, right here. Let me throw this up on the screen. This is going to help me out. Let me see here. Yeah. Okay, so Sidney Powell recently did this. Is in response to this news. The Gateway Pundit is now reporting on it as well. Mm-hmm. She says, remember what happened on a highway in Georgia to a wonderful young man who was connected to Kemp, Loeffler, and Perdue after all three called for a signature audit. Originally, Kemp called for a signature audit. And one of their staffers died in a fiery car crash. Yeah. And the staffer was actually, I believe, engaged to Brian Kemp's daughter, or engaged to somebody that so potentially his future son-in-law. And so many people at the time, after that tragedy happened, Kemp was different. Yeah. There's no question about it.
The message had been sent.
He was different after that. So it's very possible that. With the amount of corruption this is not shocking. Please, I just hope the audience doesn't think, oh, well, another conspiracy theory. Well, this has been, people have thought this for now, 5-6 years at this point. So
if you're that naive, Paul, then I've got a bridge to sell you.
Why would anyone do that? We're only talking about who gets to be in charge of the free world.
Why would that matter?
That's not worth anyone's life to send a message.
And even on the local level, with the state senators and the state House of Representatives and the ones that they elect statewide to go to Washington, why would there be corruption there?
Why?
They're only deciding how the money is spent.
Right.
if you are naive enough to believe that there is not fraud in election, you are an idiot. You are a blithering idiot if you believe that BS line that the 2020 election, or any election, but especially the 2020 election, is the freest and fairest election that we've ever had. It was a perfect storm because you had all of these people that were sheltered in with COVID. You had blue states that had not even opened by the time that we had the election of 2020 in November. And you had all of these states going against their state constitution to allow more voting. And what did that produce? It produced unrecognizable results when you had 3 o'clock and the steep, instead of it's going like here, we see a huge incline just for Biden. And we saw votes being counted just in the state of Georgia where the tally sheet were 100-0. Like the criminals and election riggers weren't even trying to shield it at that point.
They had to have the votes.
Right.
They had, they were panicking in a way.
Seems to me like you're going 90-10 or something like that to try to hide it. Nope, 100-0. You mean to tell me you counted 100 ballots and not a single solitary one of them was for Trump in a 50-50 state? Bull. You're a liar.
Here is just a little local update on this before we get to the Republicans and John Thune. I'll say generally, if this doesn't show that we have to pass the SAVE Act, we absolutely must pass the SAVE Act. Then I don't know what it's going to take.
It's the biggest spotlight ever.
We've got this polling here.
It makes me wonder if that's the timing behind all of this, Paul.
I don't know, but I mean, Chuck Schumer bill requiring proof of citizenship to vote is nothing more than Jim Crow. But I mean, look at this right now. This headline from the Times of India. Sorry, Rob.
What's the guy there? He's the one that called me trying to get my credit card information today.
Sorry, Rob. I didn't. I pulled this before I knew you. I don't want to trigger you. What is SAVE Act? What is SAVE Act? I shouldn't pull this. What is the SAVE Act? CNN polling finds strong voter ID support among Black Americans and other groups. Watch this.
85% of white people favor it, 82% of Latino, 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So
it's incredible, and yet we're not even talking about the things that I care about, which is same-day voting, getting rid of the voting machines, going to paper ballots, and that sort of thing. But even on this issue, they are so allergic to presenting a photo ID to vote nationwide. And so John Thune, they were all saying, hey, yeah, he's going to do, a standing filibuster or going to try to figure out a way to get this thing through.
Mitch McConnell's on his freaking deathbed in the hospital and pulling strings still.
Yeah, and now this was him last night.
Let's listen here.
Filibuster, try to outlast the Democratic minority under current rules. Do you have any expectation that you can succeed with that, given the enormous difficulty of doing that? In fact, the previous majority has not been able to.
Right. Well, I guess, and I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform,
more
farm
than the
bill,
SAVE Act.
Highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions. There are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor.
We got to sanction Russia. We can't secure our elections. We got to focus on sanctioning Russia.
We are in an election year, Paul. We're in an election year. And there are entire states that not only don't collect an ID to vote, that have laws against it. You can't ask them who they are. I could go in there and say, I'm Paul Harrell. I'm Paul Harrell. I want to vote. And if Paul Harrell is sitting in a nursing home incapacitated, then they just voted unwittingly. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. When you have illegal immigrants and people double voting, all of these things, All of that stuff is happening, and you're so naive if you don't believe that it's happening. It's not naive, you're stupid. You're stupid if you don't think.
Well, let's be honest. I think it's, from a Democrat, Republican standpoint, if we put ourselves in those tired and worn out camps at this point, because as we're seeing right here, it doesn't even mean anything. But yeah, voter ID hurts the Democrats more than it hurts Republicans. Getting rid of our computerized voting also, I think it hurts Democrats, but it also hurts Republicans in primaries because, look, we were talking about this off air. If D.C. is run by blackmail, and it is, and you may have some Republican who claims to stand, you may have people that can't stand that Republican in the powers that be, but they'd rather him win than some guy they don't already have blackmail on. They're not trying to make work for themselves.
No,
more work
not.
For themselves.
No sense in digging dirt if you've already got it.
And Tommy Tuberville has said this in relation to people in Congress and in electronic voting in Venezuela. He said it. United States Senator said this. There's a lot of people up there that wouldn't be because of Venezuela. And so I think there's a ton of Republicans in primaries that have benefited, whether they knew it or not, probably didn't, because of electronic voting machines. I think that's my intuition.
So you're saying it's a both sides argument?
Both sides. Both sides don't want this.
I agree that on the face, it makes a lot more sense for a Democrat to be against voter ID because we saw this influx of illegal immigrants. And then you say, well, yeah, but they still have to register to vote. But if you still don't need an identification to register to vote, or worse, you're in a state that gives driver's licenses that tell who you are, you're saying that you can't register to vote. Well, let's just say that. Let's just say that you can't register to vote, which we know is BS. Why do you need to register to vote as long as you can steal someone's identity? Hey, I'm born and raised in Guatemala, and I go in and say my name is Judy Smith. How are you going to prove it? If you don't have any identification, I'm Judy Smith. I live at such and such.
Yep.
And if that directive is sent out there to people, listen, I am not suicidal. So if this video clip goes viral, I don't want the people pulling these strings to come kill me and say it's suicidal. I am not suicidal. Although I wanted to be today with the gas company. But when you're saying that all I have to have is this person's name and address, and I go in there and say I'm Judy Smith, I don't have to prove it. As a matter of fact, there's a law against you requiring me to have an identification. Why wouldn't I vote in the Democrat Party that is actually protecting my interests, which is the ability to stay in this country?
Yep.
But Republicans, we're not innocent in this. And I hate to really identify myself as a Republican. I feel like I'm a constitutional conservative. That's what I believe in. The Constitution says this. The Constitution says that. I do have some variants on all of that stuff, but I'm telling you that the Republicans are not blameless in this as well, as evident by the fact that our Senate Majority Leader will not do a standing filibuster. So let's just say you don't want to get rid of the filibuster. You don't want to get rid of it. You want to have some sort of, monicum of tradition and all of this stuff. So you can't break cloture because you don't get rid of this filibuster. But you can make it a standing filibuster, which means that they have to physically stand there. Yeah. That's what that means. If you're not familiar, it means that the person has to think Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Mm-hmm. You have to physically stand in that place. How long can you stand? Well, the record is 24 hours.
Yeah, and then they're but they're also worried about amendments because then he says this.
Senate, and so you have to make some judgments, and the conference will have a conversation about that. I've committed to that we will talk about that idea and determine whether or not what the conference's views are about it and how they want to proceed. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of. So we will have those discussions, but that's obviously ties the floor up for an indefinite amount of time with not only unlimited debate, but also unlimited amendments.
Unlimited debate, unlimited amendments.
If it's a standing filibuster.
I mean, honestly, just on its, it shuts everything else down, all the other stuff they want to do. But really, it also on its face, the fact that is not how it just works all the time is maddening. Like you're going to make our jobs a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, maybe you have to get in a room and figure out if you don't want it to
perish the thought
that you actually have to make it a little rowdy in there. I'm sick and tired of all of these people that hiding behind the pomp and the circumstances in the procedure when it just goes against the spirit of what it used to be. Like you said, the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. By the way, you realize that like DC hated that movie.
Oh, they hated
that movie.
It was kind of like The Distinguished Gentleman, which is in like the early 90s with Eddie Murphy, if you've not seen that movie. If you ever want to get really, really frustrated, watch The Distinguished Gentleman, because it was the very definition of what the common person thinks about with government. So Eddie Murphy is a con man, and he gets elected because his name is the same as a person from the House of Representatives.
That's right.
Who's been serving forever. And all these people go to the polling, right? And they go and they're voting. And, so like a couple is talking about, who do we normally vote for? Johnson. Yeah, that's who we vote for. And they didn't double check that it's the same Johnson, right? Well, so he has his first meeting with one of the handlers, right? And he has his first meeting, and they say, well, are you for such and such or against it? And he's like, what should I be for, right? And he's like, well, if you're for it, I've got money from this side. If you're against it, I've got money from this side. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, just put me down as against it, right? And what it was a peek behind the curtain of how ridiculous this is. John Thune knows that if the SAVE Act were passed, I believe that he believes it in his heart of hearts, that the Democrats would really struggle to get reelected in some of these, certainly in these swing districts. If it's true blue, Vermont or Boston, whatever, like they're going to struggle. The Democrats are always going to come to play there. But if it's in these swing districts, they've got the advantage because there are fraudulent votes.
Well, also think about, too, I think the courts are now going to allow California's new redistricting to take place in this election. When I was looking at the map breakdown, and in order to do that, they had to take in a lot of, they had to divide up red districts, but also there's a lot of red that they're taking in, and you kind of think, what if some of those districts they think are going to go blue wouldn't go blue because of voter ID? It's very plausible.
It'd be hilarious
if they still win red.
It'd be hilarious if it backfired on them.
But I want to real quick, since we're on this issue, I want to talk about how this affects us locally. There's a candidate that we've interviewed on this program named Brian Norris. He even has an ad that plays at the bottom of this show, about bottom of the hour. Brian Norris is exposing. So Independence County had a vote a couple of cycles ago where they voted for paper ballots, but the quorum court of Independence County went against the wishes of the people and have now switched back to electronic voting machines. So Brian Norris took to Facebook and he wrote, the FBI just raided Fulton County, Georgia, and seized the 2020 ballots. Every voter roll, every voting machine, tabulator tape. Director of Intelligence, National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was on site because, in her words, electronic voting systems have been and are vulnerable to exploitation by foreign adversaries. Senator Tommy Tuberville says that there are half a dozen members of Congress who weren't legitimately elected because of voting machines. The federal government is finally investigating what millions of Americans have known for years: our elections are not secure. And what did the Quorum Court of Independence County, Arkansas, just do? They repealed the will of 63% of voters who demanded paper ballots. Let that sink in. While the Trump administration investigates whether voting machines are compromised by China, Iran, or Russia, while DNI Gabbard leads an unprecedented federal inquiry into election security, while Americans are waking up to the vulnerabilities of our election system, 11 justices of the peace in Independence County decided you don't get to choose how your vote is counted. Here's the story they don't want you to know. And he tells his story about how he gathered the petitions to get it done. He sued and won in circuit court. He sued it and won in the Supreme Court to get the ballot, or to get the initiative to take place where people could vote. And yet, and they did it, there was a mandate, and yet in December of 2025, the justices of the peace passed an ordinance overturning your vote with a stroke of the pen. And so I go back to my question, why do the powers that be, why are they so scared of abandoning these voting machines? And I think some of it, and I think the biggest part of it, and I'm giving them a big benefit of the doubt here, the biggest part of it is a total lack of imagination. And the second thing is the state and the contracts with the voting machines and the money that's involved. But I think the main reason is we have older people who don't understand the capabilities of technology. We can sit here and complain, oh, I think my phone is spying on me. Because when I talk about something with my wife, like we might need a new air conditioner someday soon, then I'm going to see ads for and that is different than hacking a voting machine. But the idea that we're going to trust this technology, we're going to trust computers that can be hacked with thumb drives that can connect to the internet. They actually can, right? It can happen. We're going to trust that to pick our leaders is absolutely insane. As technology continues to increase and we get closer to the J curve, which is just that moment of what is that even called? I can't even remember. But the J curve, where all of a sudden the improvements don't go like this and it's just straight up. It is maddening that we're not going to use paper ballots.
Well, I think you and I both shared this on our personal accounts today, and of course, I had some people in the comments, because I said, "Hey,
this post,
I shared this," and which is, me, I'm normally vanilla on my social media, or at least my Facebook, because of my day job, but at the same time, what I was talking about was activist judges. And people were pointing out in there like, oh, this is a quorum court. This is justices of the peace. They are elected. I'm like, well, there are a lot of judges that are elected that are absolutely activists here. But my whole point of this is I understand that the remedy is voting these people out of office. I don't understand how an initiative gets put on the ballot. It received all of the stuff because you got to get a certain number of signatures and you got to do all this stuff. And it gets put on the ballot. And 63%, not even close. It wasn't 51-49, 63%. And we are a 60-40 state here in Arkansas. So that jives with where we are. We're about 65-35 really. But so that jives with the voting. So, and you're saying they chose to have paper ballots, hand counted, all of this stuff. And we're talking about Independence County. How many votes are we talking about? This is not in central.
It's a rural area.
Right. And so we're talking about how many votes can actually be, because the winning vote was like 8,000 to 5,000, right? That's what you get in small states and municipals. But my whole point of it is you had people with an agenda that overrode or over whatever.
And they were probably
overtook what the citizens had voted for. And I got a problem with that because they're hiding behind, there's this court case, this Supreme Court case that happened after the fact, that Brian points out. This Supreme Court case happened after the fact. But what does that matter? It doesn't matter. The citizens of Independence County said, we want paper ballots, same-day voting, or whatever, or what all the stuff that was in there. But the big keys were paper ballots, hand-counted. We don't want to trust machines with it. We're tired of the fraud or the perceived fraud.
Yeah, or the possibility of
fraud.
Fraud.
And so they say, we're taking all of that out. We want this to be the voting. And they say, you know what, because of this court case over here or this or that, we're going to override the people's will. And that's BS.
It is.
I got a big problem with that.
Is.
And it goes to the same mentality that you have a judge that gets elected to the bench that goes in there with an agenda that he or she is going to do this. You're going to clean this up and all of that stuff. And you're just like, what does the will of the people say?
The Quorum Court of Independence County, no doubt, were under an extreme amount of pressure from people I would assume are outside of Independence County to do this.
And I know one of these people, and I know one of her. I won't say her name, but I know her. I've met her. She's a huge Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. She loves Trump and all of that. But that doesn't change the fact that she went in there and overrode the citizens' vote.
And they're up for re-election, and they can be thrown out for their vote.
And they absolutely should.
Yeah, they should be. But there's something And again, bare minimum, lack of imagination, but there's also just, I think, likely, a ton of money involved. And I'll also say this. The bottom line with these voting machines are the source code is proprietary. You're not allowed to see it. That means a third party, a private company, is actually running our elections. Those are the facts the way I see them. Unless and even if that's not the case, I still don't trust the technology. We're going to take a quick break and be back in just a moment.
I'm Brian Norris, retired Army First Sergeant, husband to Kelly, father of 3 amazing girls, and a lifelong Arkansan who puts faith, family, and fair elections first. When Independence County demanded real election transparency, I led the charge, petitioning voters and winning at the Arkansas Supreme Court. Now, Little Rock bureaucrats are punishing counties like Searcy for putting voters first. That's not real conservatism. It's big government overreach in disguise. That's why Trump allies like General Michael Flynn, Mike Lindell, Justice Michael Gableman, Colonel Conrad Reynolds, Senator Wendy Rogers, and Senator Mark Fincham back me. Together, we'll secure Arkansas's elections and inspire the nation. As Secretary of State, I'll implement President Trump's executive order, verify citizenship, replace hackable voting computers, and build trust with verifiable paper ballots. I'll cut red tape for businesses, harness our natural gas and lithium boom, and attract tech jobs to grow Arkansas strong. This is our fight, our future. Join us.
Paid for by Norris for Arkansas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. So to kind of break things up here, we're going to talk a little bit about LGBT activist judges.
Oh, Lord.
LGBT activist judges with names that are, I thought literally these reports were AI. There is a activist judge named Speedlin Gonzalez.
Well,
I'm looking
what's her
off
face?
into
Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez.
Rosie Speedy Gonzalez.
Speedlin
Gonzalez.
And she's
I
Hispanic.
spent a considerable part of my afternoon trying to get Grok to make me a Speedy Gonzalez image, but look like a lesbian in a judge's robe. And Grok just didn't want to do it. I don't know why. Grok just did not want
we need
do
to
it.
tag Elon Musk in our concerns here.
I'm not as good with AI, I guess, as I should be. But, yeah, here's the headline here. LGBT activist judge faces felony charges for wrongfully detaining a defense attorney.
Oh, this is wild. If you've not heard about this, this is wild, folks.
So there she is in all
First
of her glory.
Openly gay person elected.
A big media star, right?
Yeah,
She's
immediately puts a gay pride flag right next to the American flag because those equate.
She's
who you sleep with, Paul, is as important as what country you reside and a citizen of.
Yeah, allegedly a bastion for justice and equality. Mm-hmm. And she's full of compassion. Did you know that this judge, who, by the way, is now, again, should be in charge with a felony, but did you know this judge is so compassionate that there was a heterosexual defendant in front of her who, part of the case, for whatever reason, dealt with having to divulge that this lady had a miscarriage. And the judge's response was that maybe she should try something with batteries next time because it'd be a lot less inconvenient for her.
Wow.
So the judge
said that in open court?
Yes. She has told somebody who had a miscarriage, a woman who had a miscarriage, that she should try sex toys next time instead of the real thing. And again, that's no surprise. That's not surprising to me here, because a lot of times people from this community or enclave, they tend to kind of be obsessed with their sexual identity, as that's like who you lust after is like the only defining characteristic. Like that's not everybody.
That's not all. It's not all. I know several that don't.
But I guess in my own experience, I've experienced that. I was in. I think I've told this story before, but I'm just telling you. Yeah. It's weird. It's odd. I was in. Where was I? I was at a store in Eureka Springs for a wedding a couple of years ago, and I go to the store, and the guy is trying to open the bags. You know how to get a clump of bags, and he can't, and the guy's clearly gay. or on the spectrum somewhere, and he's fiddling with the bags, and he says something like, man, this job would be a lot easier if I didn't have to do so much foreplay with these bags. And I was just like, that there's no reason.
Right.
For
why does everything have to be sexual?
Why does everything have to be sexual? So it's no surprise that this judge did this. So she basically detained a defense attorney, held her in contempt, but did so illegally, handcuffed her to the jury box.
Jury box.
Yeah.
Handcuffed her in the jury box. And berated her.
So we're going to do a juxtaposition here. This is a great video from the Daily Caller where we get the media's fanfare about her election and how an amazing judge she is, and then we get the reality. Take a listen.
2018, Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez became the first openly gay judge to be elected in Bexar County.
Heck yes. There's nothing more important to me than a homosexual server of justice.
Within months,
justice.
Get a load of her too. I mean,
what I'm trying to say is I don't care if you're gay.
Yeah.
I don't care. But what does that have to do with you passing the judgment against this case?
I don't know.
Like, what does it have anything to do with it?
Well,
and you're telling us that it has a lot to do with it because you got a big rainbow flag behind you.
You got to have the rainbow flag.
What's behind a judge? The American flag and usually the state flag.
There you go.
That's it. Maybe you might see a county flag.
This is my worst nightmare. I think this is any straight man's worst nightmare. I'm sorry.
We're in trouble.
You go before a judge, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to jail. I don't know. I'm just going to go to jail because I'm not going to have a fair shot. There's no way. I think, and she looks like she could be a final boss at in a Ghostbusters movie.
Oh my God.
I am the key master.
Listen, so I have a friend and colleague she's gay, she's married to a woman, and other than her wife wears hats, like you would not know that these, somebody, you might say it, whatever. You would never know they're gay. Like they're not waving pride flags and all that stuff. Do they make a post during June? Yeah. They'll do something like that. But this person specifically, she's like, I don't want it to affect my ability to earn money for my family. So, and some people have a judgment, especially in Christian conservative Arkansas, some people have a judgment about it. So I just don't tell people when they ask, oh, what does your husband do? She just says, I tell them what my wife does. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not sitting here, like she is, those are two of the dearest people in the world to me. And you would not know they're gay unless you know that, and it's because they're not phonies. And that's my whole point. And it's like when you talk to a gay man and he's like, well, oh my gosh, girls, I am telling you, like the Dylan Mulvaney's of the world, even before he said he was a woman, was the just the gayest ever. And it's like it was as fake as the voice that I just did, because you still got testosterone running through your body, and some people have deeper voices and all that stuff. But I'm like, I can't stand the fake virtue signaling that we have. And what we have here is an activist judge who is letting her. Nobody cares who you sleep with. You're an adult. Who gives a crap who you sleep with? I don't care as long as it doesn't affect me. And if I'm standing in front of this judge, do I need to say, Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that I made this
mistake. Not guilty.
Yes. And listen, Your Honor,
you're one of us.
You. Like, and my wife hates when I do that way. She's like, she goes, that voice is a little too good, and I don't like it, So she tells me that she wants me to be manlier, you know what I mean, in that respect. But anyway, I've gone down a curtail.
No, okay, we finish the report. Again,
yeah.
Her name is Speedlin Gonzalez.
To me, then a homosexual server of justice.
Within months of taking the bench, a complaint was made by a local defense attorney to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct about the rainbow pride flag she had in her courtroom.
What? Are you kidding me? This is an outrage.
It came across very much like I was being targeted and discriminated against.
And
all right, so the way the story goes, she gets in, she puts the gay pride swag or whatever flair for those of you who've seen Office Space, puts it everywhere, gets a complaint, and so the media now makes it about the complaint.
Sure.
And they're sympathetic to the judge. So she's the darling of the media there locally.
It wasn't just the rainbow pride flag that she was forced to remove.
I was also ordered to remove all rainbows from the courtroom. My mouse pad, the pen that I used.
They made her get rid of her gay mouse pad? Oh, this is war. 4 years later.
We finally got their opinion last week, and they vacated any sanctions against me and dismissed the grievance that was originally filed.
Look at that rainbow flag.
It was a meaningful victory not only for her, but the entire LGBTQ community. What is most important, she says, going forward, is providing equal justice for all.
Woohoo! Equality! The future is bright now that my favorite lesbian judge has her rainbows back.
Judge Rosie Speedland Gonzalez turned herself in this afternoon on both felony and misdemeanor charges.
Hold on, pause it.
News 4's
Pause it. We got to back that one up because that was good. We need to address the elephant in the room there, that she was ordered to take all the gay pride stuff out, and then it was allowed to come back in.
Correct.
Again, I have no problem with the fact that you're gay, but you are telling everybody that walked into your court, I hate penis. Hate it. Don't want anything. Don't bring your penis in this courtroom. And that's what a lot of, maybe that's not true, but that's what a lot of people feel.
I think it is true. If she told some woman that had a miscarriage that she should try batteries next time.
It 100%, because she's bringing sexuality
into everything.
What that is, gay pride is I'm attracted to my same sex. I have no problem with it. But why I don't walk around and say, I am so glad I'm only into women. I'm walking, where's my flag? I need a flag that says that I'm only into women. I'm like,
well, maybe you're a lesbian because you love women.
Well, that's what, who says that? Chrisley. Chrisley says, I happen to be a lesbian as well. Todd Chrisley, who just got pardoned and is out. And that is a hilarious podcast, by the way. But my whole point of it is this. Some of the dearest people in my circle are gay. But most of the people in my circle are not like flamboyant, screaming it from the mountaintops. I only sleep with women. I only sleep with men. And that's just not the way it is. And I'm not saying to be ashamed of who you are, but why do I have to know who's in your bed? You don't need to know who's in my bed. Why do I have to know who's in your bed?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with who's in your bed. I just don't think you need to have a banner flying across the screen that says it.
Yeah, so the question then becomes, I think I have a reason for it. I mean, all of the woke sex religion is out because it's and has progressively gotten worse because it is a slippery slope, right? I mean,
and that's why we're seeing it in the schools. Why are we sexualizing 5-year-olds?
My take on it. Look, I fundamentally do not believe that you have any movement to trans kids or taking to drag shows if gay marriage is not legal. I don't think you get where we're at now. Calling transing kids and puberty blockers and all that stuff health care if you don't first have what happened with Obergefell. And I think that's just a fact. I mean, that doesn't mean that I hate gay people. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible. I need to that's to me. I know I believe.
But
what
that's
the
your
Bible
belief.
says.
That's my belief.
Right.
That the LGB.
Correct.
I don't have a problem.
I get it. But it's you don't even have. Without Obergefell, this lady probably isn't even elected judge.
I agree with you because it set this ball in motion.
It is what it is. I mean,
and the other thing is, again, like these people that I keep mentioning because they're just in my circle and just dear people to me. Absolutely love them. They think the trans, for the most part, are crazy.
Yeah,
right.
I saw a piece. I saw a meme today. It was somebody that had a big F the Democrats on the back of their thing. It says, F the Democrats, I'm gay, not retarded. And it was somebody who had a rainbow something.
It's gays against groomers is what it's called. And I think I follow that account on my personal account, Gays Against Groomers, because they're just like, look, I'm gay. I haven't, don't judge me for it, whatever. But I am not against, why are we talking to 5-year-olds about tucking their penis if they're a boy in a certain swimwear because they just happen to feel like a girl. Like, don't put that in with gays. Gays, for the most part, gays are not in there. The lesbians, the gays, the bisexuals, they're just like, no, this is just who I prefer. This is who I'm attracted to. These are all of this stuff. And, somebody might say, well, if there's a religious, problem with all of that stuff. I'm not trying to go down that road here, but I'm telling you, people like her, I don't think that they truly represent the gay community. At least not the gays that I know. The people who are gay, I shouldn't call them the gays, but I'm saying the individuals who are gay are just saying, look, I'm a woman and I'm attracted to a woman. I'm a man, I'm attracted to a man. That's what I prefer, whatever. This person is spreading it all over their job. They're putting these flags up. They want everything to be rainbow. You need to know, I hate penis. That's what her whole platform seems to be.
You're not wrong. You listen to this.
What?
News 4's cameras caught the moment Speedlin Gonzalez walked into a courtroom to be indicted.
That indictment alleges the judge illegally detained a woman while acting in her official role.
A defendant accused of violating probation admitted he failed to check in with his probation officer. His attorney, Elizabeth Russell, then...
Uh-oh. There it is.
There she is. She's the devil.
That's the attorney. She looks like she's a straight lady.
She potentially likes penis. Therefore,
we need to put her in handcuffs.
Correct.
Maybe it was a far-fetched dating strategy for the judge. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the judge was interested in
asked to correct the record. As Russell objected to how the record was being described, Judge Speedlin Gonzalez warned the discussion was over, saying, quote, "Your argumentative ways are not going to work today." Moments later, the transcript shows Judge Speedlin Gonzalez directing the bailiff to detain the attorney, saying, "Put her in the box." Just 8 minutes into the hearing, Russell was placed in handcuffs. The transcript shows she repeatedly asked for a contempt hearing and for a judicial supervisor to be contacted. The judge responded, "I can hold you in contempt, Miss Russell. Are you going to behave professionally or aren't you?"
The judge berated the attorney while she sat restrained in a jury box. Russell, who declined comment today, filed a criminal complaint.
Before all of this went down, some former staff spoke out that Speedy Gonzalez was becoming a bit of a tyrant.
The behavior she gave was aggressive when it did not need to be. It became very no, this is what I'm saying. I'm the judge. I'm going to do this, whether you all like it or not. It just was not appropriate.
She says the judge, who she's known for more than a decade and considered a personal friend, had a noticeable shift in behavior and began lashing out at defendants in court. One female defendant.
She had a pregnancy scare. She, thought it led to a miscarriage, so the judge went ahead and told her to invest in batteries and get basically a vibrator, less trouble, and that is what blew my mind the first time.
So
that's disgusting.
The report is saying here that there was a noticeable shift.
I'm wondering if there's some kind of psychological break.
No, come on. Well, why do therapists in D.C. where they're making money hand over fist right now? Do you know why? Because Donald Trump was reelected. Do you think that maybe had something to do with the trigger?
I don't know, but it could also be too that her over, the fact that it was changed, that she now could have pride flag stuff everywhere. Like if that emboldened her, if she was more restrained prior to it. Again, I want to reiterate clearly, I have no problem with who you sleep with. If you're an adult, you've got your own issues to deal with. I've got my own issues to deal with, whatever. I don't care who you sleep with. I do have an issue that a public servant who is elected to her position or appointed to her position, I can't remember what the scenario is totally and fully only focused on her pride. And somebody would say, well, that's not what that is. That's not what that is. Well, did you see the shot of her office? There was a flag, desk pad, mouse pad, pins, all of the stuff. Like there's literally rainbow in everything. Now, as a Christian, I got a problem with that, from the rainbow perspective. But I don't want to get into
right. You go into a courtroom and you're seeing something that is basically hostile towards your religious convictions. Right.
Yes.
I mean,
I just, again, there are so many people. She does not represent the entire gay community because there are so many people that are just like, look, I'm just trying to live my life, man.
As I'm sitting here, just kind of thinking about this, I'm just going to say that I just don't think cultural neutrality is possible. I really don't. I don't think, because we would say, well, we just want a judge to be neutral. And I just think that a judge is a person. A judge is going to be made up of their convictions, right? I mean, I know they've got theoretically, they're going to interpret the law. That's what they're there to do. But I really think it's more of a binary choice. From a Christian standpoint, I think society's either going to promote what I would say is paganism, broadly speaking. There's a lot of different ways that looks, or it's going to be distinctly Christian,
right.
And that's what America was for a really long time.
It's got to be tough for a longtime friend of hers to say something has changed. And she, on the bench, tells a person who suffered a miscarriage.
It's very cruel.
To just get a vibrator, because it's much less problem. That's just ridiculous, man. I had a conversation with a friend of mine she's gay, and married to a woman, and I said, I asked her a question, and I just said, please forgive my ignorance, but how do y'all handle Father's Day, right? Because both of them are women who identify as women, right? Mm-hmm. And she's just like, well, we just try to take a nap, we don't care, and I just said, and you celebrate each other on Mother's Day, I guess, right? That's how they handle that stuff, but they're not sitting here they're not putting a post on Father's Day saying, this is a patriarchal, holiday,
right.
And all this. They're just living their life, man.
Activists or militant and that sort of thing.
And I believe that there's so many of them that are that way, and they get spoiled by the trans trying to link themselves in with it, and then these flamboyant, over-the-top, fake people. And that's what I think that this judge is. It appears to be.
All right, so the last story, we have 3 minutes. We needed a lot more time for this. One of the things the Epstein Files has apparently confirmed, is I don't know if you remember, on Wayfair.com, there was a huge scandal where they had industrial-sized cabinets that were, $10,000, $8,000, $12,000, and they were named with the girls' names.
Yep.
There was one, we made a card about it in Left Wing Will, actually, to try to raise awareness. One of our game itself, Left Wing Will, is an actual red pill for some. But Naraya storage cabinet. Mm-hmm. And it'd be for $8,000. And now we see that there are receipts in the Epstein emails where an associate of Epstein, an assistant, bought a single unnamed item from Wayfair for $8,453, and you see it there. The quantity is one. It was one unit for $8,400. So people are once again looking at that and saying, "Hey, do you remember this?"
Where that's coming from is that these are not real, and we're going to go over this real quickly in the time allotted. These are not. This is not a real posting. This is people shopping for they're pedophiles and they're shopping for a child.
Yes.
That's exactly what this is. And this stuff has been going on. To your point, this stuff was busted years ago.
Well, but the media, you Google it now, the media said, well, Wayfair said this is not true. That's how the media covered it. Wayfair responded and said this is not true. And then they just took their word for it. And
you got a storage shelf here.
Kyla.
This thing costs no more than $100 to $200. If it's fully metal, maybe give it $300, and it's $12,000.
Kyla 5 shelf, $12,000. Annabelle 5, $10,800. And then you look at the reports about missing children, because some people started to connect the dots between the names and also missing children. So again, dark world.
Sick, sadistic people who are going to burn in hell.
And I'm sorry, I still think we're in the midst of a cover-up. I love the fact that we have the millions of documents, but there's stuff that we still don't have. And anybody out there downplaying this, and I don't care about your politics. Anybody out there downplaying what's in these files is part of a cover-up, and you should mark and avoid. I just.
And again, to that point, I don't like Trump saying we need to move on.
I don't either. I don't like Kash Patel saying we need to move on. It's insane. That's all the time that we do have for today, though. We really appreciate you being with us. I want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds, and Sherrod Chiropractic. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.